To be honest, the moment I first saw him, my fate was already sealed. People dream of movie-like romances, but for me, that love was a brutal choice, where I had to bet my life. I entered the elite overseas training center, right after graduating high school in North Korea. It's called a school, but it's actually a top-tier professional institution, designed to breed elite agents for overseas deployment. Those 2.5 years were anything but short. From vocal training and choreography to stage presence and even the precise art of serving it was blood-boiling, relentless training every single day. Back then, the popularity of this place among young people was sky-high. Even if you get picked for the central party, you'll work like a dog for 10 years without making a cent. But an overseas restaurant, you get to see the world and earn real dollars. The competition? Over 1,000 girls swarmed in and only 80 survived. While children of the elite arrived in Mercedes-Benzes, I just walked there on my own 2 feet. On the day I got my acceptance, my mother looked at me and said, "I will consider you a daughter I have lost." It wasn't a curse. It was the final warning of a mother who knew better than anyone how treacherous and terrifying the path ahead of me truly was. With a racing heart, I arrived in a country in Southeast Asia. I expected a glamorous world, but what waited for me was a wasteland, where red dust blew mercilessly. The scale of the restaurant was enormous, over 500 seats, and 4 private rooms. But behind that massive grandeur was a hellish routine. I had to wake up at 800 a.m. and scrub that 500-seat hall until not a single speck of dust remained. 780 spoons, 301 ladles. If even one piece of silverware went missing, I had to pay for it with my own money or become a victim of a self-criticism session. If it weren't for the grueling training of walking around a field with bricks on a tray while wearing 10-centimeter heels, I wouldn't have lasted a single day. In the middle of that hellish daily life, like a miracle, that man appeared. He was a South Korean oppa working at a local construction site. At first, I was genuinely terrified. He had a sharp look, hair tied back, and a beard. To make things worse, the senior waitresses ordered me to break his spirit. I spat out cold words at him. "You and I can never be close. Not ever." But isn't it strange? Watching that man visit the restaurant 370 days out of 365, before I knew it, my eyes were only searching for that front door. In that place where CCTV monitored us 24 hours a day, we exchanged life-or-death secret signals. The warmth of the hand cream. He'd slide into my hand as we brushed past each other in a narrow hallway. That burning gaze as he looked at my hand, injured from opening a bottle. One day during a break, seeing him run to me drenched in sweat just to secretly hand me some vitamins, I realized, I could truly die for this man. Finally, I made a mess of things. I told him, "Appa, honestly, I want to have a baby that looks just like you. I think I've gone crazy. I've grown to love you more than my own mother and father." The moment those words left my mouth, he turned pale and glanced at the CCTV. But beyond that panicked look, there was a sincere love for me, swirling deeper than fear. One day, he burst into the restaurant with more than 20 guests. It turned out his entire family had flown in from South Korea. A sophisticated lady stared at me intensely, looking at the menu, then back at me. That's when he said, "Say hello." "This is my mother." My God, I was having a meeting with my potential South Korean mother-in-law, right inside a North Korean restaurant. She held my hand tightly and whispered, "Suae, come to Mom. If you come to me, I'll treat you like my own daughter." With those words, the final bolt on my heart was shattered. More than the guilt of leaving my parents, the longing to be in the arms of this warm family shook my very soul. But the escape was never going to be easy. At that time, an incident where 13 North Korean restaurant workers escaped together broke out, and the surveillance by the state security department turned into madness. I couldn't even go to a convenience store, let alone go out. He made a decision. "Suae, I'll make it look like I'm kidnapping you. That's the only way your parents back in. North Korea will be safe from retaliation." That's how our life-risking, staged abduction began. The first attempt failed miserably. Masked men hired by him burst into the restaurant. But all the North Korean waitresses wore the exact same clothes and the same hair. They couldn't find me and just left. He was in despair and I thought everything was over. "Appa, let's stop here. I'll just go back to Pyongyang." Finally, the order to return to Pyongyang arrived. Wanting to hear his voice one last time, I made a secret phone call. I thought he had already left for South Korea, but as soon as he heard my voice, he just said, "I'm coming," and flew back. And exactly 3 days before I was supposed to leave for Pyongyang, the final chance arrived. It was the day the manager allowed me a trip to the market for my farewell party. He was waiting outside, holding his breath, while I prayed desperately for a gap of just 5 meters between me and the manager. The moment the manager was distracted while paying, I threw my entire body into a market alley. The people he had hired in advance were stationed at every corner to block the pursuers. When I finally climbed into his car, 5 cars escorted us, racing toward the border. Just 10 minutes away from the border, we heard the devastating news that the police are everywhere, and we had to hide for 4 days, holding our breath. But in the end, we crossed the border and stepped onto the soil of South Korea, the land of my dreams. When we reunited at Hanawan, his mother hugged me and shed hot tears, saying, "You've been through so much. Now I am not a flower of the North, but a beloved wife and the mother of a child." Love was stronger than any iron-fisted rule, stronger than any wall. If this heart-wrenching story moved you today, please hit subscribe and like to share this emotion with more people. Thank you.